Welcome to another dose of Teflon and Titanium. I am your host, Scotty G. Back at it again. Today, let's talk about being assertive versus being an asshole. Let's do it. Very, very common problems that I see with guys in particular. So this podcast pretty much applies to guys only, but it can apply to women too. But I'm absolutely talking to the guys here. Most of the guys I talk to in coaching are not assertive. They have a tendency to be on the anxious side, and they have a tendency to be passive. That's the most common thing that I see. Probably 75% of the guys that I talk to. I do talk to a good amount of assholes too, and I wanted to go over the differences between those two things and give you some actionable advice to cure it. So let's do it. So let's think of this as a spectrum. One side you have passive, the other side you have aggressive, which is asshole. In the middle is assertive. So assertive is a very good balance between passive and aggressive. It's critical for you to understand the balance because most of the people, the guys that I talk to that are passive, they flip a switch when they start talking to me to the asshole. They go from passive to asshole. They don't understand that there's a middle ground, and that's where you want to be as a man in life, in love, in career. Being an assertive man is essential to be successful in life. So how do you get there? And what are the characteristics? So let's talk about the characteristics first. So we have the passive side. Passive guys are nice guys. They're too nice. It's okay to be nice, but when you're too nice, you're a doormat. And that's what passive guys are. They have a tendency to be walked all over and taken advantage of. The other side of it are the aggressive, which are the assholes, which are mean. Okay, you've got passive guys and you've got assholes. In the middle, you have firm. So that's a good way of looking at this. Passive guys get walked on. Assholes are bullies. And in the middle, you have firm, assertive types. Passive guys, they communicate in multiple different ways, but they use what we call covert contracts. If you don't know what covert contracts are, it's manipulation. Covert contracts are subtle manipulation. Usually it's subliminal, so they don't know that they're doing it, but they do it anyway. So they give to get. That's essentially a covert contract. So, example, they'll take the trash out and do the dishes in an effort to get laid. That's a covert contract. That's giving to get. Assholes are just plain manipulative. They're just jerks. They throw shit in your face, and they're just assholes. Firm men, assertive men, are just well respected because they have integrity. They have empathy. They understand everyone's perspective that they're talking to, and they're not jerks, and they're not nice guys. All right, nice guys, that's as a derogatory term. Passive guys have a tendency to have low self-esteem. They don't feel good about themselves. They have trouble with eye contact. They have trouble with confidence, and they have a low self-worth. Aggressive guys, asshole guys, are arrogant. So arrogance is different than confidence. Confidence is what assertive guys have. So they're sure of themselves, but they don't need other people to know it. Okay, so that's an assertive guy. Passive guys have weak boundaries, and honestly, they have no boundaries a lot of times. Assholes, they're overbearing, they're jerks, they throw themselves in your face, and they just don't have any tact. And firm guys, assertive guys, they have firm boundaries, well defined. If you step over over their boundaries, they're going to let you know about it in a good way. All right, not in a nasty way. And so passive guys just don't have boundaries. They get walked all over and get taken advantage of. Very, very common. And Passive guys, they need acceptance from others. They're people pleasers. They don't like people being upset around them, and they'll do everything they can to make everyone else feel better at the expense of themselves. That's a passive nice guy. Codependency essentially is what we're talking about here. They're people pleasers. They want everyone else to feel better at the expense of their own self-worth. And assholes they're bullies. Okay, so they're very aggressive, and they need power. Okay, so think of a bully. The reason why bullies do what they do is because usually they feel bad about themselves, and they want everyone else to feel worse than they do. So they manipulate people, and they're just assholes. Assertive guys don't need that. They don't need acceptance from others, and they're not jerks. So if you don't like them, it's all good. If you don't like me, it's all good. You don't have to hang out with me. And I will be open and inviting and a good friend until you step over my boundaries one too many times. At that point, don't expect me to call, and don't expect me to stick around very long. That's how assertive guys think. All right. So nice guys, passive guys are people pleasers. Your badass types, your assertive guys, they're advocates for themselves. And one of the characteristics of assertive guys that's a big one is they listen well. They're good listeners, but they also offer opinions and solutions. Assholes they're just rude. They make comments that are offensive. They don't have empathy. They don't understand their environment most of the time. And then there's one other one that I haven't mentioned until now, and I definitely want to mention it, and it's passive aggressiveness. Passive aggressive, I call them fuckheads. No one likes passive aggressiveness. Anyone, males, females, kids, adults, elderly, no one likes passive aggressiveness. And a lot of people don't really understand exactly what passive aggressiveness is. So let's go over that real quick here too. Passive aggressiveness is using sarcasm as a weapon, not humor. So they're sarcastic to a fault. Sarcasm can be fun, and it can be funny to a point. Passive aggressive people, they use it all the time. And a classic example of passive aggressiveness, especially when you're having a fight with somebody, with your wife or your husband, is "I was joking," quote unquote. I was joking. Perfect example of passive aggressiveness. People use that when they realize they screwed up, but they don't admit that they screwed up. So they say, "I was joking," to try to smooth over the fight, and that's passive aggressiveness, and nobody likes that. Children do that. My wife's done that. I've done that. If you do it often, at least you know now that that's not a healthy tactic in relationships. All right. Very common one. Another example is, quote, "You're so lucky to have all the time in the world to focus on your own stuff," unquote. That's another passive aggressive example that who's going to like that? Who in their right mind is going to enjoy somebody that says something like that to them? No one. Okay. Or "must be nice," that kind of stuff. That's passive aggressiveness. Nobody likes that. Everybody hates that. Okay. Another passive aggressive tactic is the silent treatment. If you just shut down communication, that's passive aggressiveness. And a lot of guys I talk to are in deadbed situations in marriages. Think of it this way. If you give your wife the silent treatment, that's exactly the same thing as a wife cutting off sex for a guy. If you're going to cut off communication for a woman, it's exactly the same thing. It's awful, and it's not going to produce a very good outcome for you. All right. So knock it off. And another one that passive aggressiveness or passive aggressive people will use is they'll intentionally make mistakes to sabotage others. Like I said, passive aggressive people typically don't feel good about themselves and they want to make everybody else miserable around them. Whether that's intentional or not, maybe, maybe not, but a lot of these things are just done subconsciously, and it's all about feeling good about yourself. If you don't feel good about yourself, it's going to be very difficult to be assertive and to be a decent human being, just plain and simple. So another thing about passive guys, let's go back to the passive codependent dude. They don't have opinions. Passive guys don't have opinions because they don't want to rock the boat, and nobody respects them for that. So they defer to others and offer no solutions. And you're not going to be very well respected when you're like that. Assertive guys, they'll listen, but they offer solutions to problems. Assholes just offer solutions to problems that are unsolicited. So there's a good contrast for you. Assholes and passive aggressive fuckheads are usually hypocritical and they have low integrity. And integrity is huge, and humility, very, very important. They have a tendency to blame others for their own problems. They can't take responsibility for their own actions, so they blame others and deflect. They'll point out problems, like I said, but they won't offer solutions. They take criticism personally. Another very common characteristic. That actually goes for passive guys too. Assholes, passive aggressive fuckheads, and passive guys will take criticism personally when it's not exactly always personal. Maybe somebody gives you a little bit of constructive criticism that will actually make a big difference in your life. And a passive guy is going to take that as an attack, and they're going to take it personally, and they're going to internalize everything, and they're going to shut down. Very common. So we've talked about all the other differences. So let's focus on the assertive man only. Assertive men are accountable. They're accountable for their own actions. They have a tendency to admit fault when needed, but they also stand up for themselves too. It's a balance. They have integrity and they stick to principles even when it's unpopular. Unpopular opinions nowadays have a tendency to get you shut down, doxxed, canceled. All of this stuff that's going on in the real world is stifling open communication. But assertive guys don't give a shit about that. Take me or leave me. If you like me, that's all good. If you don't like me, it's all good too, man. You don't have to listen to this channel. Change the channel. It is all good. Guys that are assertive have integrity. They have principles that they stick to, even when it's unpopular. They'll use that criticism, that constructive criticism, and they'll learn from it. I'm a business owner. I own multiple businesses, and Google reviews is a thing. If somebody gives me a low star review, I'll look at it, I'll see if it's valid or not, and I'll correct when needed. If it's something that's just somebody that's just a asshole, I'll know. So it's not one of those things where I'm going to take it personally. Even if it's good or bad, I'll learn from it and I'll move on. I just don't take it personally. You have to be that way when it comes to working with the public. If you are working with the public, don't take it personally. A lot of people are just miserable. All right. Especially most of the people that get on Google reviews, they're typically of the miserable type and they just want to vent. And they do it publicly, unfortunately, but you can't do anything about it. All right. If you give more attention to it, it's going to make it worse. Assertive guys search for solutions. They look for solutions. If they don't know the answer, they're going to find it. And they'll refer to somebody else that might know some things a little bit more than you and say, you know what? I'm not quite sure on this, but I know this person does. So I'm going to refer you to them and they'll take care of it. Assertive guys have no problem doing that. Assholes, they're gonna lie and manipulate you. And passive guys, they just won't offer opinion at all, and they'll just be sticking in mud. All right, so the reason why assertive guys are like that is because usually they've been there, they've done that, they've been through some shit. They understand what's bad and what's good. So if you know assertive guys around you, and you've got a good picture in your head, most likely that person's been through a lot in their life. Assertive guys understand valleys. They understand what's really bad and what's good. So you have to have the low times to appreciate the good ones. It's not the end of the world. Usually assertive guys have been through some serious shit in their life, and they really understand what's really bad, so that they can adapt to a bad situation and move on and think clearly. It's a very, very critical trait to be assertive. Humility. Assertive men are humble. They know where they came from. They have a good foundation. They know exactly who they are, what they enjoy, what they're about, what their mission is, what their purpose is. That's the core of an assertive man. You have to know yourself. You have to know what you're about, what you're made of. And the only way to get there is to challenge yourself every day. Make yourself uncomfortable every day. Once you got that solid foundation and you know what's bad, what's good, you know where you came from, and you never forget it. That's the key. A lot of people that I talk to that have been successful, sometimes it gets to their head and they forget where they came from. Maybe they came from humble beginnings. I know I did. And they forget themselves. Assertive men don't do that. They're humble. They have humility. And the hallmark of an assertive guy, if you're wondering exactly what an assertive guy looks like, or who that person is, in your daily life, an assertive man is the guy that sits in a room and doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to talk all the time. And when he speaks, everyone listens. That is a hallmark of an assertive man. If you're trying to search around for somebody to emulate and to learn from, that's your guy. He's the guy that sits at the boardroom table, listening to everyone else, forming an opinion, and when he speaks, everybody listens. Nobody speaks over him. That's an assertive guy. Hallmark. All right. So now we've gone over all of the passive, asshole, assertive, and passive aggressiveness. Let's talk about how you become assertive. So how about some actionable advice now? All right. How can you work on being more assertive? Number one, use I and we statements when you speak. I and we instead of you. I and we statements. So examples, we should go out tonight versus what do you want to do tonight? You see the difference? When you use you, you're deferring your opinion to someone else and you're making them make a decision. Assertive men use I and we. Number two, listen to others before offering your opinion. And you have to offer an opinion when needed. All right? Active listening. That's what that is. So you listen well, you get everyone's opinion, you get all of the data, and then you offer your solutions. That's critical when it comes to assertiveness. Active listening. So that's number two. Number three, adopt a mindset of I don't care what others think of me, versus the asshole, which is I don't give a shit about anyone. That's asshole. There's a subtle difference there. If you don't like me, it's all good. You don't have to like me. That's assertive. Assholes, they just don't give a shit about anyone or their opinion. All right? There's the difference. That's number three. Number four, be direct and intentional when you speak, but not harsh. Direct and intentional. So an asshole example is, babe, if you won't have sex with me, I'm done. Say the guy's in a dead bedroom. That's asshole. Now, assertive is different. Assertive would be, babe, you can do what you want, but I'm not okay with our bedroom situation anymore. That's assertive. You have some empathy, but you're also setting boundaries and you're telling somebody else what you will and will not tolerate. That's assertiveness. And don't forget about tone and context either. Okay, tone is important. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It is critical that you understand that. Is that easy to learn? Not really. Just try to put yourself in someone else's situation, in their shoes. What does it look like from their perspective? That's critical for you to understand and have empathy for somebody else that's in your life, specifically your wife. It's difficult to do that because she's a woman. She's going to see things differently than you do, but you can at least try. Put yourself in someone else's situation and put yourself in their shoes. That's empathy, all right? And another little caveat here is that children, they respond very well to assertiveness. They don't like assholes, and they obviously don't respect the passive dude. Okay, so when it comes to parenting, assertiveness is critical as well. So it's important to use restraint. Okay, that's what makes the difference between an asshole dad and an assertive dad. Use restraint. Kids are going to screw up. It's okay. But as long as they understand what they did wrong and why you get upset with things and why you're setting boundaries, then it's all good. Then they learn and they understand where you stand. That sounds okay. Being an overly assertive dad can make your child fear you. Be careful of that as well. I've been down that road before, especially with my son. He's a teenager now, and there have been times where I've gone too far with boundary setting or just setting too many boundaries, and I could tell he would shut down around me and he would be afraid of me. So use restraint. As a father, don't forget to have fun. Be the fun parent. Okay, you're the one that enforces boundaries, but you also need to be the one that sets the tone of a fun home. Be fun. Smile. Have a good time when you're not setting boundaries and they're not screwing up. Have fun with your kids. All right, be that fun parent. Be that rock. Don't forget to be fun. Don't be an Eeyore. All right. All right. So that's number 5. Number 6. Listen to others and be empathetic. We've talked about that already. That's number 6. Number 7. Make a decision and offer solutions to issues that come up. Make a decision. It's okay to get in people's faces to a degree. Make a decision, offer solutions. And number 8, look for win-win outcomes. Win-win outcomes are everywhere, fellas. Avoid lose-lose situations. If you're digging a hole, the first thing you do is put down the shovel. All right? Recognize that you're in a situation where winning is impossible, and drop it as soon as possible. Look for win-win outcomes. So an example of a win-win outcome, just generally off the top of my head, is carpooling. You join up with a friend, they're going to the same business, and you drive one day, they drive the next day. You're going to get some company, and you're going to save gas. Win-win. And the same goes for your colleague. All right, that's a win-win situation. They're everywhere. You just have to look for them. And number 9, pay attention to nonverbal confidence cues. So assertive guys, what they do is they have eye contact, they have upright posture, slow movements. They're not heavily animated all the time, and they talk slowly and with clarity. So it's easily recognizable when you look for those cues. If you're seeing a lot of those cues in somebody that you know, somebody that's a friend of yours, that's the person you want to hang out with. All right. And number 10, how to be assertive with your woman. Let's talk about that real quick here. Now, this could apply to women too, actually, towards their man, but specifically assertive with your woman. Be direct and clear of what your intentions are. What's expected of your wife. She needs to know that. Don't assume that she knows. All right. Be confident with your statements or questions. Passive guys don't have questions. They don't have statements. They don't have opinions. Assholes have nothing but opinions. Be in the middle. Be confident. Is that easy to do? No one says that's easy to do. It's difficult. And use statements like the I and we statements. Okay, so I'm or we're going to versus do you want to? Do you want to? I and we statements as opposed to you statements. So let's talk a passive example of that. Quote, do you want to have sex? Unquote. Does that sound like a very good way to initiate a sex session? No. That's what is she going to say to that? Not now. Versus the assertive example is, quote, it's sexy time, baby. Direct and clear with your intentions. She can say yes or no to that. If she says no, it's all good. No skin off my nose. I get an extra hour of sleep. All right. If she says yes, have at it, buddy. All right. So above all, don't take yourself too seriously. Assertive men, they have no problem having fun. They can poke fun at themselves, but not to the degree where it's self-deprecating. Have fun. Make her laugh. If you can make a woman laugh, you're going to diffuse any argument you're going to have in your relationship, period. If you get her to laugh, it's impossible for her to be upset and laugh at the same time. Women love assertive men. They love assertive men, but you can't be serious all the time. Okay, you need to have fun. Enjoy yourself. Life is short. Enjoy it. Enjoy your life with your wife, with your girlfriend, with your friends, with your family, because you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to be 70 years old and you're going to look back and say, shoulda, woulda, coulda. I don't want you to be that guy. All right. I want you to be the guy that says, you know what? I am good. I can meet my maker. That's what I want for you. So that's the difference between assertive and asshole, fellas. Check out my socials in the description if you want to look me up. I'm ready to help y'all. And that goes for women too. But this one was really designed for guys. This is a huge problem that I see, and it's getting more and more common where passive guys, they just get walked all over and they're just miserable. And I don't want that for you. So until next time, see ya. Thanks for listening. Please visit marriageisn'tdead.com for all my info. Please join our private Facebook group to interact with me and with people from all over the world. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow to get notified of content I upload every single day. Be desirable.